Call this meeting of the Palmyra Borough Council to order. Everyone please rise for a pledge of allegiance and a moment of silence for the armed services. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Brenda, may we please have roll call?
Counselor Barry?
Here.
Counselor Catalani?
Here.
Counselor Garber?
Here.
Counselor Miller?
Here.
Counselor Corroli? Here. Counselor Tichet?
Here.
Counselor Scheer?
Here.
And Mayor Carpenter is absent. We have a full house.
Just a reminder, council members, please remember to turn your mics on. And also, please silence all cellular devices during the meeting. Thank you. Special visitors, Dr. Bill Seaton of ARM Group is here to present and explain the groundwater study component of the borough-wide geophysical study project.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
One, two, good?
Exactly.
I've got a PowerPoint here. I've kind of condensed it, so there's only, I think there's less than 15 slides. So we're going to get right to the point pretty quickly. This is an update. Our project is not complete, but it's a reasonable spot to tell you guys what's going on. So if we go to the next slide, that's just a map of Palmyra with a topographic map. Here, just a little mention here, Borough of Palmyra is within karst bedrock zone. And if maybe you recognize the map, Susquehanna River here, City of Lebanon up there, and good old Borough of Palmyra right in the middle of this trend here of karst or sinkhole-prone geology. And you can see the little dots here are mapped areas where either a sinkhole has happened or a sinkhole could very well happen. This is mapped by the Pennsylvania Geological Survey. It's been mapping that's been going on since the, I think, 80s. So here we are. Just to see, this is important to know because the bedrock is a critical component, but not the only component of the sinkhole issues that are present in Palmyra Borough. You can go to the next. Now what we did and what we're doing is collect geophysical data. And you can see the borough outline on the map, that's the red line. The black lines are what we call MASW profiles. It's a kind of a seismic profile where we put energy into the ground with a kind of a hammer, collect the data as it's collected by geophones, and then process the data into these color profiles. And the energy we use is called the surface wave, and if you're ever standing on a sidewalk and a big truck goes by, the kind of rumble you feel, that's the surface wave. And that's very good to measure it because the speed of that wave as it travels along the ground can tell you a lot about what's underground. Rock that's very dense, the waves go through quickly. Rock that is loose, broken, it goes through more slowly. And so the velocity of that waveform that goes along is now measured and picked up. And real quickly, just to look in a quick color sense, blues and greens are slow, low velocity. You get into the reds, that's high velocity. So when you see red, think bedrock. When you see the green, think that's the soil layer. And I just wanted to show you this. This is just the northeast, southwest lines, some of them that we collected. You can see in the reds, you're seeing variation from dark to light red. You get some feedback here? Dark to light red, and that means what it's telling you from this point of view is that the bedrock is variable. Some of it's very fast, like Tombstone. Other bedrocks it's either fractured up or it's got other materials in it that slows it down a little bit. Sometimes fractures, sometimes zones. like here on Walnut Street, where it's actually fractured to the point where water's flowing through it readily. You can go to the next slide. These are the north-south lines, so extending from the northwest, southeast, and you can see Railroad, Grant, and Forge Road, where it's up high a little bit and then sloping down towards the center of the borough. Again, you see the dark red high velocity, lower velocities here, and places where the soil zone dips into where the bedrock is in other places. This zone here up on the northern end of Railroad and Forge actually is shale and is typically not prone to sinkholes. Whereas you get into the limestone area where we are, and we can start seeing these very low velocity zones that are in the shallow soil. And this is just a little starter. We're going to look at more detail and more zoomed in things here. There's a little guy here. We're going to look at that in just maybe the next slide. Go ahead to the next slide. Oh, no. We took all those profiles, and you can see the map with all the profiles, and then we convert that data to map view. So these are called depth slices. So the upper maps there, the green maps, you can see 8 feet BGS, that's 8 feet below ground surface. And so you can see the shallow maps, 8, 12, 16, mostly green. We're kind of going through the, top one. We're going through the soil zone on those top ones.
Bill, turn it off. Just push the button on the bottom there. Yeah, try that.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
The shallow maps here are the soil zone. As you can see, as we go deeper into the soil, like 24 feet below ground surface, we are picking up some rock zones. The deeper down we go, the more bedrock pops in. However, notice 32 to 40 feet below ground surface, some of these areas in the southern part of the borough are still these low velocities, still soil, indicating we have erosion deep into the rock, more prominent in the southern part of the borough than in the northern, although it's still present in northern. Even as we go deeper, you know, we're in the reds now, but these reds are not really solid rock. 80 feet below ground surface, 160, we're still seeing a mix of reds and deep reds, indicating we have a lot of variability in the bedrock, and it's, that will come up later. Indicating pretty much anywhere in the borough, the bedrock is a potential problem for sinkholes. However, this is not the only issue. It's one of, I'll call, 3 primary factors that influence sinkhole development. Go to the next slide. This is a picture of a little bit different kind of geophysical survey. And again, this is a depth slice. And we collected a bunch of profiles. I just want to show the depth slice here. Roger Pollitt asked us to evaluate this area. This would be the East Ridge Road and Railroad. See, here's the railroad, here's East Ridge. There's a developer evidently developing some land up here. There's some stormwater that normally would come down here. And he evidently is saying, hey, perhaps we could divert it to where the stormwater wouldn't cause a problem with it flowing here normally. We could divert it onto this property here. So basically, we were tasked with evaluating what would happen if we took stormwater from this point to here and allowed it to flow onto this property. And now this is a slice of electrical resistivity data. It's a little bit different. It's different than the seismic data. Electrical resistivity is simply that. The resistivity or resistance to electric flow of the subsurface. And the nice thing about this data is it correlates very well with saturation. So when you see blue, think wet, made it simple. When you see red, think dry in general. But basically what happens is water flowing from the northwest comes down here, even with the existing system, right? But it would be the same if it was transported over here. Comes to this point, hangs a hard left, and goes right to the quarry. I mean, I'm so glad that Roger gave it, because we would have probably gotten to this eventually, but it let us force us to focus on this area real quickly. So that's where the groundwater's been going for decades, right? just because there is groundwater flow does not necessarily equate to an automatic sinkhole risk. It's one factor only. There's groundwater flowing underneath the whole borough all the time. Significant flows, we know it. And so this is just one example of maybe how that happens. Okay, next slide. Question?
Yes, could I ask regarding that, now that the quarry is being it's been,
Shut down.
shut down, and water is now filling that back up, are we gonna start having backups pushing water the opposite direction into those?
Excellent question. In fact, that's built into our proposal. We are doing a computer simulation of the groundwater in the borough. We've included the quarry. And so we will computer simulate what if the quarry starts filling out a certain rate? How will it impact this flow, the existing stormwater injection wells we have, and the rest of the stormwater system as a key part of it?
So question, somebody, I forget who it was, told me they were at the quarry getting, for lack of a better term, a tour. And they thought that once it's stopped, that it might help the water situation, so.
That's a good point. Right now, the quarry helps the borough.
Yeah.
I mean, that's creating this huge, I'll call it a sink, right? Water, groundwater also flow there. So we've got injection wells, we've got all kinds of water flowing there. And it's been doing that for decades, right? And so there's kind of an equilibrium that's been established. I know a lot of people point at the quarry for not to cause the sinkholes, that kind of thing. I would be very careful about making those statements. There are many factors. The first one was that second slide I showed you. You were in this car smell, right? So let's be really cautious about pointing fingers or saying, oh, this is the reason, let's do this. At least three key factors that we'll get to. Next slide. This is a map, which is a contour map of the top of bedrock. In other words, those profiles, we found the soil rock interface and made a contour map of it. Very similar to the current topography map, where we have relatively, of course, high elevations here, but it moves down through the center of the borough. You have a kind of a western low zone and an eastern low zone with this kind of hump in the middle. When we first, this was, we knew this. We've done the early work we did at the middle school, where we did those injection wells, made us really think, well, that water's going this way. But a lot of my thinking was, I think a lot of us think, boy, these low airs are going to be really prone to where the sinkholes are happening, and perhaps the shallower rock will be less prone. Not so. Next slide. The purple dots are all the places where the borough has hired ARM, us, to do sinkhole remediation. Notice a lot of them are in this area where bedrock is relatively shallow, where you have pretty good water in the ground. Not as many in other areas. Although the ones that are present in other areas are significant. There's East Maple, right next to you, you've got Cherry over here. All kinds of work's been done over here. Along Main Street, the borough hasn't done it, but PennDOT has. All kinds of work down Main. So the depth of bedrock, and in fact, you might have some of that massive rock that we showed you, does not necessarily guarantee that you don't have sinkholes. In fact, in some places, it looks like there's a lot of sinkholes in those kind of areas. So really got us thinking, okay, there's other key factors. Here's a slide, I gotta put this together. I did a lot of work in Virginia. Anybody here been to Natural Bridge, Virginia?
Yeah.
Thomas Jefferson used to own it. 300, almost 300 years ago. Natural Bridge is, it's a rock thing, and there's a tree growing on it and a big opening. Well, I just want to announce here tonight, Palmyra, Pennsylvania has their own natural bridge. You have one. There it is. Well, it's underground, you can't see it, but we saw it with MASW did. And so again, you have this hard, massive rock here that acts as a bridge over at lower velocity. This is almost certainly broken rock, and even in fact some soil down, 100 feet underground. That's a water zone there. So very simple. In fact, I've scaled these almost things about 90 feet. I scaled it about the same. Got a natural bridge. However, again, this is not an air void like this, but it's soft material. It is not massive bedrock. However, there's a very important lesson here. Even though we have a kind of a weakened bedrock condition, we do have the bridge here that seems to be intact, just like Thomas Jefferson's was, and is. It's been there hundreds of years, right? The natural bridge here, this is Front Street near those warehouses. This is a topography, so we're looking, it's got a dip down on the road. Water's gonna puddle here, it's gonna flow down to the low spot, and you can see here, we got this blue, this is low velocity material, likely from water flowing through it and eroding the rock. However, that bridge is pretty firm, it's holding. It doesn't appear to be any kind of pathway into here. If there was, there'd be lots of sinkholes here at Front Street, but there's not. The rock is holding in that site. In spite of the fact that we got a natural dip in the road that's probably collects water every time it rains. So, key factor, if your bedrock is arranged, even though we're in karst, we're in a bunch of limestone area, doesn't guarantee a sinkhole. Okay, next slide. Here's a site. This is MSW profile. Cherry Street. Here's the stormwater basin. Cherry Grant. Here's the section of one of our MSW profiles right here. You can see now we've zoomed it up, right? Here's your soil zone. Bedrock zone. Notice the bedrock up and down, deep bedrock here, right over where a lot of the collapse was. Very, very massive, this is tombstone here. This is solid, pure limestone. We see it's clear. This kind of yellow color, intermediate velocity, where outside of, away from this is $1 million worth of grout.
I remember.
Remember that? There's a little slice there. We can measure the impact of grout with velocity. Cement is higher velocity than cruddy soil. This stuff over here, this green and blue, is likely what this looked like prior to all that grouting work. Almost certainly. That's a very interesting slide. The thing is, Cherry Street slopes down here, then it slopes back up. Here, the road can kind of, water wants to pond here a little bit from there, right? That was one of the problems with Cherry Street. You had a place where water was wanting to pond. There's another thing going on here. Go to the next slide. Here's what you just saw, this slide. The slopes here, relatively steep slopes. They're not real steep, but they're a little bit steeper down here. And then the topography flattens out to a significant degree here. So water is quickly moving from the south towards the north along these streets. When it comes here, it slows down. It slows down right in this area. That's a second key factor. You have karst geology, and two, you have topography. Nature's own topography that wants to concentrate water here. Second thing. The third thing we'll talk about, and I mentioned it now, is man-made stuff that's problematic. One, Palmyra has never had any serious modern stormwater conveyances, the roads and the conveyances. Two, a lot of the older houses have basements. In the basements, I'm told by people that live here, there's a lot of them have French drains in the basement where the wash water would go, let alone the rooftop water is going right down the side of the house into the ground right next to the house. And so those factors together, weak bedrock, natural surface geology that wants to concentrate water there, plus man-made things that are causing groundwater to go vertically downward to the rock. I think together, those three things over time make sure. National news. But if you need to have in my opinion, those three things are the key things. And what we're going to show probably is that towards the end of this study in December, January, we'll have a final kind of product where we've mapped areas throughout the borough where those three factors are the same spot. We'll high grade areas in the borough that require Similar profile along South Locust Street, this is just the west side of the middle school. Notice the ground slope here, kind of a consistent slope. However, this part of South Locust, notice the fractured bedrock, you got soft bedrock in there. Notice the low velocities in the soil here. This is the spot right behind the middle school where that injection well is, and there's been significant sinkhole activity over the last few years. We've been caught up here multiple times to fix sinkholes in here. And again, we're seeing the reason here. It's not so much a topography, it looks like consistent topography, but it's a weird combination of, and these are not, there's a couple bad ones, but it's not Cherry Street happening here, but there's still significant sinkholes. Here we have two of the three problematic areas, maybe the third with human-induced, we're not getting very good drainage there. The contrast here to here. I would say if this got worse here by the middle school, that this would be a good candidate for compaction grouting. And that way you all becomes higher, firmer up, the sinkholes don't have a chance, or much less chance to occur. So I just want to show you that contrast and give you an idea of how complicated the problem is here. So three factors. Go to the next. Kind of summing it up here, this one I only got one more slide. The factors, one, we got the bedrock geology, limestone fractured weather zones. We have areas that collect surface water, we've talked about, associated with topography that's just natural. Localized depressions, swales, stormwater basins, some of these things are man-made that want to collect water in one place. That's number 2. 3, man-made features. Roadways, parking areas, rooftops, we know that. Rapid infiltration into the subsurface. Uncontrolled rooftop water just flowing into the ground. Home use, wastewater, trenches associated with buried pipes. Any buried pipe, you got to dig a trench, put the pipe in it. That trench now can become a conveyance for stormwater, which will get into the ground and cause that, This is at a site in Hershey where a pipe, old stormwater pipe, rusted. Every time it rained, that pipe was dumping water vertically into the bedrock. Old pipes, legacy stuff, broken pipes are all potential issues. So I'm really thinking about it the best we can, get an idea of where buried pipes are, gas, doesn't matter what it is, any kind of utility. We could overlay that on the map of the borough to help us find these zones that are going to be maybe riskier. And 1, 2, and 3 above occur in the same geographic area, then sinkhole risk is high. That's what our study's doing. We're going to identify these areas, the 1, 2, 3 together. We're going to make a model of the underground flow of water coupled with a model of the surface water together and link those models together. That's the final product we're going to have here. And it's going to help us understand, whatever, pick a season, springtime or maybe summer, been dry for a while, we get 3 inches of rain in a day or two. How's that going to impact these different areas? Quarry, continually filling up with water. What level is it likely to rise to? We can probably predict that pretty accurately, assuming the pumping is completely off. What's going to be a new steady state condition? Those kind of things. I think we can give a pretty good estimate of what that is. I'm looking forward to that. So this is kind of where we're at. Is there any more slide? Next slide. We've got a little bit more data to collect. We're about 89% collecting those profiles. A little bit more maybe. We're going to complete all of our mapping, underground mapping with that geophysics data, identify high-risk subsurface areas. We want to include all the surface data we can, injection wells, monitoring wells, quarry pumping information, to make this model of the underground, and we're going to model how groundwater is flowing through it. We particularly, I guess the contact, but I'm going to talk to the quarry people, we'll get their data as soon as we can. We're going to develop the surface water model we're going to talk about, which is basically just how water flows given the topography to identify high-risk areas. We're going to start that in a couple weeks. Shouldn't take long. There's not a lot of complexity there. Plus, the federal government has given us very high-resolution topography data. Start permanent surface and groundwater monitoring locations. Maybe that's gonna make sense. We're monitoring the groundwater flow in some areas, maybe wise to do that for a while, so we understand what's going on there in front. We were out at, by the sheets over there, doing that injection well. And, one of the couple steps to it, we drilled deep in the injection well and put casing in, then we had a big storm. And we put perforated casing in this big open void area, like a room underground. So we go back after the storm, look down, water rose and water rising, came back down. The casing was gone. The water moves through it so fast, it just blew the casing away. Imagine a piece of pipe sticking through the roof here and go, the water flow was so strong, it just blew the pipe away. I mean, we're just going, where is it? Where'd it go? So, this step here may be worse than only. Yeah. We don't dare put anything down there. But it works. The stormwater injection well there, behind the sheets there, works, seems to work. Talking to Scott Foss, he says, yeah, in general, it's much better than it was. And report on our model impacts of future borough developments. In other words, if you guys want to do something new, any kind of new development, this model will help give an idea of potential risks. The other kind of things that we're talking about for any new development, in particular when people clear land, what we've seen anyway, and that first step where they just, whatever's there, they strip it off and they start, regrading the land, that days or weeks where you have this soil exposed. It's really a time of caution and danger because now rainfall goes straight into the ground. You don't have the grass and the organics. It's a few inches thick, it's amazing, to stop the water from just heading vertically downward. And I've seen it. Not only does the water being, grass on your lawns, everything stops the water, but it changes the chemistry of that water. You probably heard the term acid rain, and the rain around here is slightly acidic. Although it's getting better, it's still a little bit acid. The grass and organics change the pH to make it less. When you take that away in these construction sites and water just goes down, now you have acid rain going on the limestone. They don't take acid on visiting limestone. We did that in high school. Problem. So any future borough development where you think you're going to expose a lot of ground, we would just want to put our 2 cents in. That could be problematic. All right, that is my last slide. Don't want to take forever here. Any questions or comments? I didn't answer.
There's a proposed development going to be on the north side of the bridge. Water is going to run more towards the center of town.
That water's going to, from my understanding, here's the existing drainage and topography. Any water here is going to end up in this drainage swale. Now, I don't know how the decision making is going, but
It's actually further over where that is coming down. It'll come down Grant. It's right at Granite Street.
No,
this is railroad, right?
Yeah.
All
Granite
right,
Street
no.
will be the next big block over. That's where.
I'm not sure what I'm looking at now.
This is all here, this is all private, and then we got that subdivision. My understanding, Roger, was that the water would come to this point, and as is now, or there's kind of, it would go underneath East Ridge Road, and then there's some kind of, it either flows down here. And the idea was to divert the water so it would flow onto that private property. The idea. If they do that, it's really not gonna change a whole lot because the water flowing here goes that way. I don't think it's gonna make it, much of it's gonna come down here. That's an area.
those of us on the hill.
People up here?
No, down right there at Ridge Road.
Here.
At Ridge Road.
Oh, right at Ridge Road. If this thing is made to handle the volumes coming off this, which is very important, that it's designed to handle perhaps large volumes, because this is gonna, assuming driveways and roads and rooftops, and it could have a lot of flow. So if it's designed right and caused to go over here and down this way, it's gonna help here, it's gonna water here. Another, so that's, again, talking to Roger, and understanding that would improve the surface flow down, just that runs right down. Definitely something you want engineered well. Question?
There was another thought that some of us had questioned. Would it make any difference if we would divert it straight down Grant Street instead of off to the left towards the quarry? Would that change anything?
I don't think it's gonna change much as far as work goes.
Excuse me.
I mean, it might, the thing is, you don't wanna, potentially, I guess you could be problematic down.
I don't know that we were putting it the whole way down. Do you
But I
remember what we
think
were thinking that
If
way?
the water goes underground, it's gonna start.
I mean, all the water coming off that ridge is eventually gonna try to get to the railroad.
Right.
Which is what we're trying to do to get underneath the railroad to continue it into the quarry on the west side.
Potential for injection wells here, to where if you could get it in one or more injection wells, you could capture all that water. Again, profiles indicate, and I'm almost certain from my data, this is surface water, basically. The chemistry of surface water is going this way, which has been going on for decades. You have a large subdivision here, maybe fine,
That's on Orchard Hill.
but it is something to, just start changing groundwater, and there can be unexpected.
So I wasn't aware that the quarry is so-called shut down. Is the man behind the curtain just moved south towards 422? Where are they
East.
getting their, is that what's going on there?
The chemical that they were.
They're east now.
South and east. Well, they put that big barrier up there for whatever
This
reason.
pit is closed.
Okay. How will the elevation behind it affect it filling up and affect the water being able to go that direction, maybe? Is there any, because that's a higher elevation behind the quarry than what the borough is.
Higher elevation where?
Behind the quarry,
Up here?
it's a higher elevation, fields, what have you.
Yeah. It depends how much the quarry fills up, and I'd be curious to see, these are the benches in the quarry. I mean, even if it came up halfway, I think you still have enough gradient, in other words, head difference between the water coming off the river. That's a lot of water to make up. And even then, I'm not sure it's gonna go that high, because the quarry gets to a certain height, and there's flows that go back to the creeks that are at the east. We're gonna look into that for our modeling, but
Could it start going backwards?
in which way?
Could it start pushing backwards? Once those tunnels, underground,
Yeah, I mean, it's gonna come up and it's gonna seep the next, so it could flow back out, or, once the tunnels fill up, it's just gonna not be able to flow that way anymore.
it's gonna find its level.
It's gonna find a level, and once it hits the water table level, which, you got this off the screen, you got a creek over there, a river stream, whatever you wanna call it, I can't remember the name of it, but it's gonna reach that and then wanna start flowing that into that feature. Again, the computer model will help us a lot with that, because it's got all the topography, it finds the level for you.
Could you explain how the catch pond works? Like a catch basin? They wanna put that catch basin near Glow Ridge, right?
Oh, okay, you're talking about for stormwater.
Yeah, so does that water go straight down in the ground when it's being held there, or does it?
It depends how they design the catch basin. If they design it with a permeable bottom, then the water will go vertically down into the basin. If they make it a impermeable surface, like most of them are, clay bottom, it'll stay in storm events, they have to design something that's gonna handle, 5 or 6 inch rain over a few days, where that's gonna go. They may just design it down the street, 5 meters or something like that. That is something we wanna watch carefully on it. How big that catch basin is, what year storm is it designed to capture? And that's, with 2-year storms, storm. All those things are important. Can you call, talk to Roger?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you.
We look forward to your next presentation, we think.
That's what he tells us for remediation is, that's not gonna be fun.
Orchard Hill. Melrose, something?
What?
Is it Melrose?
Yes.
What?
A new development. Melrose Garden?
I think it's
Or is
Melrose,
that a TV show?
I don't anymore because
Melrose Place
all those
was a
guys have
TV show.
moved around.
I didn't, well,
It's
I-
Melrose
I know
something.
Okay, that's all. I just.
That's what it costs.
Yeah, I think it's called Melrose.
At some point, I'll probably just call her down and find out who it is and what we're doing,
Wow.
just so they can be.
We can probably find out, because, our guys still go there sometimes, so we might be able to find out
That'd be
who
good.
the right contact is.
Contact.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you, Dr. Z.
Thank you.
All right. That takes us to public comment period number 1. Please state your name and address for the record, and try to limit your comments to 5 minutes.
Step up to the podium.
And don't forget to step up to the microphone.
Turn it on.
Anybody? Anybody? Not yet? Okay. All right, closing public comment period number 1. That takes us to the consent calendar. The following agenda items will be acted upon by a single motion unless a member of Borough Council wishes a specific item to be voted on separately. Approve the minutes of the September 12th, 2023 Borough Council meeting. Approve payment of all bills listed on the August 2023 detailed checklisting report. And approve the treasurer's report for the period August 1 through August 31st, 2023.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, action and discussion items. Resolution 2023-13, auditor appointment for 2023 audit. Discussion on if appropriate. Suggest motion to approve resolution 2023-13, the resolution appointing Brown, Schultz, Sheridan, and Fritz to perform the annual audit for year ending December 31st, 2023, for a fee not to exceed $33,000.
This is quite a huge increase, like
is.
more than double.
It
And I
is.
read the letter, I understand the letter, but we've talked about this in the past, and I think it's time to put it out for bid again. I realize that it's probably standard, but that's more than double what our maximum was this past year.
I don't think any of us realized how much they were writing off.
Yeah, I'm
Or that didn't make any sense
surprised,
to me.
12,000.
Yeah.
20,000, 14,000, another 12,000. I mean, that's a huge chunk that they're writing off, and I don't begrudge people making their money. I just think maybe it's time to.
My question is, how does a business operate when it's writing off?
Well, it looks like they can. Their firm's goal is to write off a maximum of 20% of our total internal costs for any individual engagement. But we're up to 40%, 36%, 35, almost 35%. So I think they sort of, I would assume that they sort of
No, they're gonna lose
know
money?
they're going to write off some of it, but they're writing off like double what they.
I think I'm with Jane on this one. I'd like to see.
Well, for this year, you kind of,
Yeah,
we
it's a
have to
little
appoint
tight.
the auditor by the end of
Yeah.
September, which
It's-
is
yeah.
today.
Yeah.
So, but we can certainly put a
For-
bid out for
yeah.
next year.
I mean, we talked about this, and I remember Keith even talking about this years ago. And believe me, this has nothing to do with the company. The company has been wonderful, from what I understand, to work
They
with.
do great.
Yeah,
I'd just
I
like to
have no, yeah,
where some other companies would come in compared to this.
I have nothing against the firm,
I don't either.
so,
I don't either. It's just curiosity, just to see if everybody's at the same
I almost fell over.
level.
And then when I read the letter, I almost fell over again, because I realized that that price seems to be accurate. It was just sticker shock from what we had approved in the,
I think that was the term we used when we
Yeah.
saw it. Jane's gonna have sticker
Yeah.
shock.
yeah, so.
So do you need a motion for
So what happens if we don't,
looking out for next year?
what happens if we don't approve it by the end of September? Are we,
Good question. I mean, it's required in the actual state borough code to do it by September.
okay, so it is the state,
Yeah. Yeah, so we're kind of actually stuck with them this year yet.
okay,
So it would be next year's budget that we would advertise for.
okay,
And we'd have to do it, late spring, early summer, to give them a chance to get us a quote. So by this time next year, we would have it.
Who knows what they're gonna charge us next year?
well, I mean, everything's gone up, we're all dealing with it, everything is.
I know.
And I get it, and I'm not out, if this is the appropriate amount, it's the appropriate amount, but it's something we have to do, it's just, it would be nice to see.
Right, we won't know unless we check
Right.
into it.
So I will make the motion
I'll second it.
on the caveat that we put it out for bid next year. Or with the caveat.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? This? All right. 2024 minimum municipal obligation for pension funding. Non-uniform pension plan for 2024 is $305,265, and uniformed police pension plan for 2024 is $86,935. Discussion on it is appropriate. Suggested motion is to approve the uniformed and non-uniformed minimum municipal obligation for pension plan funding for the 2024 budget year.
So moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. New public works hire, employment agreement, discussion on and if appropriate. Suggested motion is to approve the employment agreement with Elijah J. McFarlane in order for him to obtain the required commercial driver's license at borough expense in exchange for his commitment to serve on the Borough Public Works Crew for a minimum of 3 consecutive years from date of hire, or he will be required to reimburse the borough in full within 12 months of separation.
So I have a question. How long's the class?
About a month.
Oh, okay. Because I was gonna say, should it be from his hire or from the time that he's completed the thing, but it's a month, so it's not. Okay,
I'll make the motion.
oh, I'll second it.
Sorry, you made the motion. didn't you?
No, that was
Okay.
just a question I
Good
wanted,
question,
so,
okay.
yes, I can,
Got it.
take your pick. Beth and I,
Gotcha. Yeah.
All
us
those
in
in
whatever
favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Trick or treat night, discussion on and if appropriate.
Something fun.
Suggested motion. Upon recommendation from the Palmyra Chief of Police and the Lebanon County Police Chiefs Association, trick or treat night shall be held in the borough on Tuesday, October 31st from 6 to 8 p.m. with a rain date of Wednesday, November 1st from 6 to 8 p.m. in conjunction with countywide trick or treat.
I have a question, so, and also I have a little kid, so it does affect me. So, Now, I know we always had it Thursday last month of every, but I have noticed not just county, but like Cumberland County, Dauphin County, like everyone's doing it. Is this something that they just want it all to be, oops, sorry, okay, there we go. Is this something that they just want everything to be like uniformed in all the counties? That way there's not issues and problems? And how was it before where it was like we did Thursdays and someone else did it Thursday, or maybe someone else did not? Did it work fine that way, or was it a lot of headaches?
We don't worry what any other county does, we only care what Lebanon County does.
Okay.
And honestly, they've always just done Thursdays, the Thursday before. And honestly, you hear enough complaining from people, why is it never on the 31st? Well, this year,
Yeah.
the 31st is a Tuesday.
Yeah.
It's not a bad day to do it.
So there wasn't no like explanation of like it was bad to have it on a Thursday, or like it was bad to do it, like problems or anything like that?
I have no idea, they've always just done it on a Thursday.
Yeah, okay.
This is what they've done, you just never, you don't want it on a Friday or a Saturday.
Is this something that's gonna happen now going forward, where it's always gonna be on the 31st?
Depends on when the day is.
That all depends on the day.
Yeah. If it's on a
No.
Friday, they're not gonna do it.
So next year it'll probably be on a Wednesday, we'll probably say do it on a Wednesday.
Actually,
Then
it'll probably
following- Oh, cause
It's leap year.
So it'll be Thursday,
Yeah.
we'll say do it on Thursday, the following year it'll be probably on a Friday, and we're gonna say, no,
Do
we're
it on-
gonna do it on a Thursday.
Yeah.
I got what you're saying. Okay.
I always question why trick or treat night wasn't on the
Just keeping it
31st,
all
so.
Friday and Saturday.
Yeah, you just don't want it on the weekend.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, no, that makes sense. Thanks.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Bid award, MS4 Stormwater Improvement Project, South Lingle Avenue Bioswales. Discussion on and if appropriate, suggested motion to authorize the borough manager to issue a notice of intent to award a contract to Flyway Excavating 4070 Old Harrisburg Pike, Mount Joy, PA 17552, in the amount of $265,008 to convert the two existing drainage courses west of South Lingle Avenue into bioswales to satisfy the requirements of the borough's municipal separate storm sewer system, MS4 permit with Pennsylvania Department of Environmental Protection.
This will be it for that deed, that project then, right?
Yes.
Until they come up.
Until they come up with something
some
else.
other
No, you're
regulation.
absolutely right, yes. Until the government says, yeah, you have to do this now. Okay.
And that was not the cheapest bid.
Yes, I was just gonna explain, the low bid, there was problems, the borough engineer identified some problems, we sent it to the solicitor, she also agreed that because of the way the contract documents were sort of signed, not signed, she said we legally can't accept without it being a notarized signature, so basically that, the low bidder was K.C. McGinnis out of Greencastle, so that bid is actually being rejected, and your second bidder is Flyway Excavating out of Mount Joy. And we also had their paperwork and everything looked at by the engineer and the solicitor, and Flyway's was good to go, so they're basically the lowest responsible bidder.
And don't forget, you have a $150,000 grant from DCED and a $90,000 from the county. So,
That's
you will have some portion of it because you're required to meet match, but
Yeah.
it came in far less than what the
Yes.
estimate
Well,
was.
just so people in attendance know, that bid is 265, the high bid was 383. So there was quite a discrepancy between, which, I mean, happens with bids all the time, but I'll make that motion, gotta do it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, President's report, I do not have anything. Takes us to the financial statement. Everybody has that one as of August 31st in front of them. Any questions, comments, concerns?
Nope, looked good.
Anybody?
Good to me.
Okay. All right, takes us to the fire department. Fire Services Commission is having a meeting on October 18th at 6 PM in the Firehouse Training Room.
Yes, I'll be there. I thought.
else for the fire department? Takes us to the library report.
You will have the report in the next meeting. I was there, but I had to leave Wednesday for a meeting, so I didn't get the report done.
No worries. All right. Takes us to the police department.
Are there any questions on your August monthly report?
A little uptick in simple assaults for the month of August.
They're not exactly simple assaults, they can be harassment, and the way they get coded for the FBI makes it simple assault.
Okay.
So like, it may just be a summary citation that you're issuing to somebody, but because it meets their
Their definition.
definition, it gets registered as simple assault.
It just seemed like much higher than last August, so.
People were different in August. People were drinking a little more, doing some dumb things, and they were hitting each other, punching each other, throwing each other, so it was a little different.
I mean,
Was it the heat?
so far for the year, we're up 8 and 7 of them were in August. So obviously something was happening.
Did we have a supermoon?
Yes.
What?
Supermoon.
Supermoon.
Oh, I,
I was gonna say it was something in the water.
Full moon usually brings out special people when it's a
I
full
agree.
moon, so you have some.
I agree.
You had 2 full moons.
oh,
You had a blue one.
what's in a blue moon?
And a super moon, or the other one, I forget what they called it, but there was 2
Okay,
in all.
that may be the explanation, so, thank you, gentlemen.
Nothing else on that? We'll talk about e-bikes quick.
Yeah.
Since that was asked, and pretty much what we talked about was correct, it's a bike. Like, you still, the only thing is, like we were talking about, you have to follow the rules of the road, stop at stop signs, yield to
Go with
traffic.
traffic.
Yes, all the stuff we talked about. The only nice part was, I know, cause some people wanna talk about the speeds, top speed's 28, and I learned about that basically, those are class 3 bikes, they meet the max of that 750 watts for a bike. So that was something I didn't know. Yeah, it's just a bicycle, that's all it is, and there was no issues with that, so. Told you I'd find out and do a little bit, so we were right with everything we were talking about. And we also talked to somebody else in the neighborhood, and they weren't quite sure where the bikes were being brought up because they hang out in the area and said they haven't had any issues, so.
It's good to know.
I'm not
They,
sure.
they are getting more popular, I mean, but,
The only thing is I could say is maybe it's some other area that they might be in, but it wasn't there.
so let me ask you this. They would be treated as any other bicycle rider, and they can be warned, cited, or something for any infractions.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else?
Anybody have anything else?
Okay, good.
Okay. Rec Commission.
Okay, well, you got the report that Roger emailed, and I was not at the meeting this past Wednesday because I was at the meeting in Virginia. So, sorry.
Good.
I don't like missing those meetings, but.
It happens. All right, that takes us to the solicitor's report. I'll let you handle those.
Okay. Joselle was busy.
Yes, she was.
She got us 3 letters. The first one is dated September 18th, has to do with Chantel Communications and their proposal to put a cell tower at our Public Works facility on 910 East Broad Street. She basically just looked through the proposed contract and made some comments and had some suggestions, so we can take that back to Chantel, and I guess that really is kind of the kickoff for negotiating.